Just exactly what are your convictions, Miss Goldman?
Convictions, my convictions, simply the right to lead. Anarchism, birth control, conscription resistance, AC.
Dear Eugene, all those years you spent trying to achieve with a battering ram what we are now achieving with the Civil Liberties Union, the ballot box, and the New Deal. Can't you just once try to play the game instead of continuing to wallow in your own self-created martyrdom as a voice in the wilderness?
Self-created martyrdom?
Roger, shut up. The consul asked me my convictions, and I'm going to tell him. Every time America put me on trial, she indicted herself.
My first court conviction, which sent me to Blackwell's Island for a year, came in 1893. At a meeting in Union Square, I had advised thousands of unemployed
Not to trust politicians, but stand up and demand bread from the rich.
for proposing the first of America's poor people's marches. I was hauled into court and questioned about my views on God and government and morality, all of which I happen to oppose.
Why don't you leave this country if you don't like it here?
And where shall I go? Everywhere on earth the laws are against the poor. And they tell me I'll never get to heaven. Nor would I want to, frankly, anyway.
Gentlemen of the jury, were this dangerous woman to be acquitted, it would be to lift aloft the black flag of anarchy and let it wave over the ruins of law and order. Aliens like her would just as soon as not run a night with anyone or blow up half the town with dynamite bombs.
Yes, the children of the rich will be exterminated, and the streets of New York will stream with blood, and worst of all, property is likely to be destroyed. I was convicted of inciting to riot, even though there hadn't even been a riot. The fact is, all I was exhorting the masses to do was to recall Cardinal Manning's dictum of long ago that
necessity knows no law. The starving man has a right to a share of his neighbor's bread.
of this the authorities demanded my head. The San Francisco Code proposed that I be hanged.
Secretary and considerably longer.
Why? Because I dared to stream on overseas mass. I dared question that nobody has, such as what good is government that lets the starving die? Why should the state have more crime? Anarchism means no one tells you what to do. You decide what's good for you. Whose resources over our head you We shall never be able to put an end to violence, but we can refuse to condone injustice with our silence. I mean that equally concerning any tyranny, communistic, fascistic, or any other kind of high moralistic. I will never say only what powerful people would like to hear. So, in 1893, they sent me to Blackwell's Island prison for a year.
American Civil Liberties Union. Dear Miss Perkins, nothing in Miss Goldman's record in the United States disqualifies her in any way from re-entry, save her opinions on public issues and her philosophy of politics. She was never convicted of any except a purely political offense, involving only her opinions or utterances. While she holds the same views now, the purposes of her trip are
to visit my family and my friends.
And to lecture on drama and literature. The purpose of her trip is not for public discussion of political questions.
What? Not for public discussion of political questions? What kind of...
Dear Eugene, a visa apparently will not be issued unless you will agree not to discuss political questions either on the platform or in the press.
Roger, I can't consent to that. How can I treat literary or dramatic themes without reference to the forces that gave them their strongest impetus, politics? I can't buy my re-entry into America that way. Doesn't it look as if the Department of Labor was just inventing new conditions in order to create a convenient excuse to back out of the expectations it had roused? Or are they afraid of hearing me speak on my convictions? A, anarchism.
No, E.G., they are not afraid, but they're in a tough spot.
B, birth control.
They fear the Nazis will then demand the right to propagandize in the U.S., and you can imagine what problems that could create.
I don't give a damn. Free speech is free speech, period. What kind of world is it where women have no voice, but in poverty their children in society scorn? Anyone with feelings sees they ought to have a choice, so I spoke out on the right of a child not to be born. I broke the law by teaching methods of birth control. But how could I not play that healing role? The world is sick to its soul, and somehow we can't reach their goal. Every woman has the right to bear a child or to refuse, and not to be dictated to by the law, or by some dominating male, promoting every female's right to choose.
In 1916, I was sentenced to 2 weeks in Queens County Jail.
Convictions, my convictions, still as ABC. Anarchism, birth control, conscription resistance, that's Eugene.
My dear E.G., I know how you feel. Just a few years ago, I was forbidden to enter England.
At any time and for any purpose.
My crime having been the time I served in prison in the U.S. for conscientious objection during wartime. I only got in finally by having an MP friend of mine vouch for me and by promising in writing
Not to take any political part whatever while visiting the United Kingdom, including meetings, interviews with the press, and articles.
I decided to play the game. Partly because, frankly, I was rather intrigued by the role they had assigned me of dangerous agent of the revolution. Drawing on this experience of mine, I therefore went to see Frances Perkins at the Department of Labor on your behalf.
Well, Roger, we've admitted your British Labour organising friend Tom Mann and that French socialist Henri Babus, and as of this month, Americans can buy and read James Joyce's Ulysses. So now what do you want?
Just one old woman, Frances. Emma Goldman.
Yes, I know. You've always had a soft spot for older women, even much older women.
Only for those who have something to say, Frances.
Oh, I'm sure she has plenty to say, Roger. She has only to start in on free motherhood, or government as the enemy of the people, or war as the ultimate end of big business. And then Congress will have plenty to say. In fact, they may even impeach me for allowing her back.
Now, why would anyone want to impeach the first woman cabinet member, Frances?
All of Washington is a men's club, Roger, and many of them are just waiting for the chance to discredit me in the New Deal. So remember, she's a guest this time.
I'll remember.
And don't let her forget it either, please. You must keep this from the press, at least until mid-January, when Congress is no longer in session.
All right.
And we can't.
At least officially allow her to speak on any political subject.
And why the hell not?
Because it's against the law, right?
Roger, you know the Department of Labor doesn't like that law any more than you do. But we do have to work under it. And we would hate to have to deport her again after letting her in.
Let him deport you again, Eugene, just the way you and I were deported on your third conviction, conspiracy with me, Alexander Bertman, and others, to induce persons not to register for service at war, where so many would be so senselessly killed. During the trial, there was a recruiting station outside where a band kept playing the Star-Spangled Banner. All were ordered to stand. We remained seated.
It is a strange perversion of human reason that dares question any person's right to exist. Yet none does it so very effectively as the spirit of U.S. preparedness. The martial maniac run amok. The deathly germ of militarism is sweeping the country like a plague. Years ago, Germany proclaimed, thereby forcing other nations to do so. But you cannot build up a standing army and then throw it back into a box like tin soldiers. Armies that bring to the teeth with weapons only develop instruments of man that have their own dynamic. War consumes the strongest and most predictive element of the nation. War swallows the largest part of the national revenue.
Almost nothing is spent on literature, on art, music, or education compared with the amount devoted to
war in time of peace.
But in times of war, all else is set at naught. All life stagnates, all efforts curtailed to feed the insatiable monster of the military. It thus becomes more arrogant, more aggressive, more bloated in its own sense of self-importance. If, for no other reason than out of surplus energy, militarism, to stay alive, will look for an enemy or even create one artificially.
I spoke to anyone who would...
1917.
I spoke to anyone who would open his ears, urging anyone who hated war to resist. And in 1917, I was sentenced to 2 years, convicted of defending the human right to exist.